Good morning, Ultimate Coach Facebook family. It's early, 6:02 Pacific time. Just flew into Phoenix Sky Harbor from Salt Lake City. Doing my little pilgrimage to see Mr. Hardison this morning. And like a couple weeks ago, I got a little time to kill, so I thought, why not jump on a live? See if anybody's up. It is Tracksuit Thursday. Got me a short kit on today. I had a lovely video from Dominic London this morning, and he was wearing his PFC tracksuit. So I hope he gets a photo up of that for everybody. As it is Tracksuit Thursday, I guess a lot of people in this group don't know it, but I typically do lives on LinkedIn for Tracksuit Thursday, and I also do a recorded one when I'm not going to be in town. And the one I recorded this week, which will be up someplace, I think it's on the website or someplace, is on financial freedom, or more specifically, the myth of financial freedom. And it really is an exploration of financial freedom as a state of being, not a function of doing. I thought I'd get on and talk about it this morning a little bit, see if it's interesting to anybody. It is most definitely a topic near and dear to my heart, and specifically talking about financial freedom as a state of being, not as a function of how many dollars in the bank account. So, in my work, in my practice, I have the opportunity to interact with a lot of folks, and I always ask the same question, when I'm sitting down with somebody. And the question is, what do you want? What do you want to create? Where are you headed? Hey, Amy Rose. Long time no see. My wife Louisa and I bumped into Amy Rose at Vessel Kitchen in Park City. We were popping in there, and she was in line behind us. What are the odds? 100%. So, I ask people the same question all the time. What do you want? What are you looking to create? And the answer, hey, good morning, Amanda, that I get most often, more than any other answer, about what people desire, what they're looking to create, what would have a profound impact in their life. Sometimes I say, what would you ask a magic genie for? Is they say, financial freedom. That's the most common answer. I want financial freedom. So, financial freedom. I've heard that before. What does that mean to you? Right? Hey, Dave. I loved your latest video, Dave, by the way. Actually, a couple of them. I love seeing you on video, man. I love what you're doing in the world. What does that mean to you, financial freedom? Well, like having enough so that nothing can affect me, nothing can bother me, or I can do what I want. Oh, okay. Well, quite often my next question will be, well, how much is that exactly? And what's interesting is almost very few people that I ask that question to have a real answer. Like it's kind of I'll know it when I see it, I'll know it when I'm there. Stated differently, I call it a train to nowhere, right? No destination, no idea. I'm chasing something, I'm seeking something, but I have no way of knowing when I would get there. Like, at least if somebody says, well, if I have 10 million in liquid assets and 2 million, if they've got something that they can map out, well, that'd be something, but trust me, most don't have it. And even if they did, well, what I would suggest, what I would offer is they're not headed where they think they're headed, right? This idea of financial freedom as a destination that you will arrive at when you have enough money accumulated has some very significant flaws in the theory. The first is, and people don't think about this, I think about this a lot. The first is, let's say that your destination is $5 million in assets, all right, $5 million in net worth, whatever it is. Well, you get there, you arrive at your 5 million, and in theory, you've got your financial freedom. Well, what happens next? Well, at that point, your primary concern is not to drop below that number, if you can even keep it at the number, right? What I find in terms of a personal experience is that life gets more and more expensive, and the more access we have to finances, the more we create ways to spend those resources. So I've never met someone who has said, if I get to here, I'll be all set, I'll have what I want, and then gotten there and said, okay, I'm there, all done. It's a flawed concept, right? And of course it's a flawed concept, because fundamentally what the idea of financial freedom is attempting to create is an experience of life inside of us because of, created by something outside of us. I want a feeling of freedom, and if I have the right finances, then I can have that. Well, hopefully where you see this is going, and my guess is it'll resonate with folks in this group. Well, freedom is something produced from the inside. Specifically, freedom is produced from our being, right? Our being produces either an experience of feeling free, unconstrained, ability to go anywhere, do anything, or it produces anxiety, frustration, non-acceptance of what is, all sorts of other aspects. So the journey to what I would call freedom, I wouldn't even call it financial freedom, is an inside job. It's got to come from the inside out. There is no amount of money that will create a consistent experience of freedom produced from our being, simply because anything outside of us is subject to the variabilities and the vagaries of the world, right? Again, hey, good morning, Rebecca. Trying to create access to something inside of us, produce an experience inside of us from something outside of us, well, there's so many flaws in that idea, not the least of which is all the variabilities in the future, right? So just make it real simple. You could wake up one day and have, in theory, as much money as you thought you needed to experience financial freedom, and you might have that for a few moments until you turn on the news. Exactly, well put, Dave. And what you see is we're hitting a recession, or the stock market's down, you check your portfolio, all of a sudden that money changes. And either it changes or you're under the constant fear, threat, possibility of it changing, right? It's just not how it works. I spent a lot of years consulting, and in my consulting practice, I served founders and entrepreneurs and people that were looking to grow their companies and sell them and exit. And I had an incredible run. Worked with more than 147 entrepreneurs, took more than 24 to successful exits where they put tens of millions, in some cases hundreds of millions, in their banks. And I can report universally that it did not in any way create a different experience of life in and of itself. Now, they might have had more convenience or more nice stuff. They had more to worry about. They were so, by and large, terrified that they were going to screw up what they'd gotten, or that people were going to steal from them, right? All of those fears generated from who they were being. There was somebody I chatted with recently And what he shared with me was that one of the ideas, one of the thoughts that consistently shows up in his head is, if I make money, that will put me at risk, right? And this isn't, this isn't specific to him, but I'm kind of playing with this. That could be people are going to try and take from me. That could be I'm going to become a target, right? People are going to want to kidnap me. These aren't words he said, but as ideas, these are thoughts produced from a way of being, right? There's no amount of money that's going to make those thoughts go away. There's no amount of security detail and alarm systems and precautions that are going to get him or anybody thinking these thoughts to stop producing those ideas and those thoughts. That's his being, right? There is no outside fix for that. There is no remediation other than looking at deeply the being that is producing those thoughts and seeing how that being creates itself in the world, right? So this idea of financial freedom as a destination, as a place to get to, as something you can achieve or a place you will arrive at when you have enough money, it doesn't work. Well, so what do? Well, you can still pursue freedom. And I would even say you could pursue financial freedom, but I define it differently. I define financial freedom as a being that knows it can create whatever it needs, whenever it needs it. It is not dependent on having enough or making enough to feel anything, think anything, experience anything. It knows, and by the way, the same thing could be said for financial security. It's another, variant of this. What is financial security? Is it enough in the bank? Or is it a knowing that whatever you need will always be provided for you? Right? What if the being knew, had a knowing, had a certainty, however you want to talk about being, that it had enough, it always will have enough, it can always create more, it wants for nothing, and it can keep creating as much as it wants, right? Coming from that place, right? Financial freedom as a place to come from. I am that I want for nothing. I am that I create as much money as I want whenever I want. These are just things that I create for myself. Two-shift being, right? I am that whatever I want I can have. I am that nobody can take anything away from me. I can't just create more of. Those would be I am statements produced from a being or to produce a being that had what it already needed, had what it already wanted, what it already desired, had that freedom, had that security, and wasn't looking for it outside of itself. I was talking with another coach that's part of this group, and we were just chatting about, how do I say this? A lot of folks who are coaches or consultants or just any entrepreneur, right? There's a lot of insecurity that they're going to make it, going to have enough, going to be validated, etc. And as such, coming from that place of I need money to feel whole, or I need this deal so I can feel secure, or this person needs to work with me so I don't have to worry, even so I can feel validated. Well, that actually creates repulsion. That creates resistance in the world, right? My experience of life has been that the less I allow money to be what I'm playing for, the more my being focuses on serving. Well, the money comes, it flows, but it is this need for it, this desire for it. Victor Bach, who's part of this group, talks about this beautifully in How to Solve All Your Money Problems Forever. And he talks about the law of repulsion. Right? Law of attraction states very simply, whatever I create in my mind as a desire, I move towards. Well, nobody talks about the law of repulsion, which is, the way he says it, whatever it is that I'm addicted to creates repulsion in opposition to whatever force of attraction I might be generating through manifesting or whatever. Now, the way he uses the word addiction, and if you haven't read this book, I strongly recommend you read the book. The way he uses addiction is very, very beautiful. He talks about addiction. I'm not going to get this exactly right, but he talks about addiction as the connection between something outside of us, something in the material world, physical world, with an experience of life we want to have internally. So if I want to have a good time at a party, but I need a couple drinks to relax so I can have a good time, well, that's an addiction. I need something outside of me to create something inside. If I need this money so I can feel safe, well, he calls that an addiction. And addiction repels just as desire attracts. Right? So it's an amazing thing to really think about how many people are spending all this energy creating affirmations, trying to manifest things, but they're missing the point that the more they're attached to it, the more they need to have it so they can feel a certain way. Good morning, Daniel Allen. It's being pushed away with a force far greater than we could ever counter through simply manifesting. So the ideal state is to desire, manifest whatever you want, and notice all the places that you're creating an attachment to the attainment of that outcome as a dependency for having an experience of life. If you do that, you move towards whatever you want effortlessly. You really do. So, there's some thoughts today on the myth of financial freedom, the myth of financial security, this idea that you're going to ever have enough money or enough in the pipeline that you can feel okay, right? My position is if the being cannot create freedom and peace and connection inside of us, well, it sets about chasing it outside of us, and that's a very, very exhausting proposition. If, however, the being can produce and create peace and freedom connection inside, well, then all the other stuff gets attracted to us, as it's supposed to. So there you go. Thursday morning, Tracksuit Thursday. Hope you enjoyed it. Hello, Tyrone. And if any of this sparks some questions, or you're like, I'm not sure what he meant by that, or you're like, yeah, but isn't this, reach out to me. I'm always happy to respond in the little messenger thingy and see if I can support everybody's journey to being. Hey, Steve. Good morning, brother. The other thing I want to just put out there, and I'm going to talk to Eric about this and see what he thinks, but I wanted to get a take from anybody who's willing to either put a comment in here or shoot me a message. You're welcome, Amanda. I am thinking about hosting in this group only, let's call it a weekly or bi-weekly chat on being, right? These lives are very kind of one way. I just kind of show up and talk about what shows up for me or what's buzzing around my brain. But being and distinguishing being is something I spend a lot of time thinking about, right? I come down here to Phoenix every couple of weeks. I spend a lot of energy, time, money, and resources to expand my personal understanding of being. And I thought it'd be fun to share that in kind of a format where people could come and ask questions and we could discuss being and explore it together, right? Not like me lecturing on being and telling people what it is. And in fact, I don't believe it's possible to teach being. What we can do is distinguish it for others. And by that I mean point to aspects of being so that we can each have our own personal understanding of it. So I was thinking about doing that like a once a week hour or so, but it would be more interactive and it'd be just purely based on, questions. What do you want to know? What are you trying to sort through? What resistance or challenges are showing up in your own personal exploration of being? I am the coach of being, after all. So I'd be curious and would just love people to let me know if that's something you'd be interested in me doing. It'd be scheduled so we could plan for it. And it would purely be an interactive, questions. Might even bring people on and have a little video chat about it or something. I haven't thought this totally through, but I was just thinking that that would be a way to serve this community. I spend an inordinate amount of time not only thinking about being, working on my being, but also serving others and helping them distinguish their being. So if that's interesting, shoot me a note and say, yeah, do it. Otherwise, have an amazing day. I am off to see the wizard, the wonderful wizard of Mesa, Steve Hardison, and sending love out there to all of you beautiful people.